Senator Reid telling Rachel Maddow that he may force a vote on Loretta Lynch as Attorney General. Joining me now are Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat from New York, Jonathan Capehart of The Washington Post, and NBC News Capitol Hill producer and reporter Frank Thorpe. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Frank.
Good evening, Rev.
Frank, how would Senator Reid try to force this vote?
Well, Senator Reid is threatening to force a vote to put the Senate into what is called executive session, which would only require 51 votes to go into. And so if he got those 51 votes, he could effectively start the process of procedural votes to actually get to a vote on Loretta Lynch. The issue for Senator Reid is that that would actually require 5 Republicans to also vote with him. And while there are 5 Republicans that have said that they would vote for Loretta Lynch, they would vote for her nomination to be Attorney General, it's unlikely that those 5 Republicans would go against Republican leadership and vote to go into executive session.
So you are saying that those 5 would have to vote to go into against the Republican leadership to go into executive session, which is different than their commitment to vote for her in an open vote in terms of the full Senate. But you just spoke with Senator McConnell's office. What are they saying about this threat from Senator Reid?
Well, they're just effectively saying that while Senator Reid can force this vote to go into executive session, Senator Reid cannot actually force a vote on Loretta Lynch's nomination unless he were to get the 51 votes to go into executive session. What they said is actually, quote, that's Senate 101, unquote. So, I mean...
Is that true?
It is true. I mean, it is. I mean, Senator Reid would have to be able to get the votes to go into executive session before he can force this vote on Loretta Lynch. And Republicans and Democrats also point to the fact that they are getting very close on these negotiations to pass this trafficking bill. They've been working on this for weeks, and they think that they can get the negotiations finished, that they can complete the trafficking bill early next week. Senator McConnell said that on the floor just a few minutes ago. And he also said that, as he's been saying repeatedly, that once they finish that trafficking bill, they would go ahead and go into the vote on Loretta Lynch's nomination.
Now, Congressman Jeffries, today White House spokesman Josh Ernst, he talked about the Lynch delay. Listen to what he said.
There is no reason why she shouldn't be confirmed today by the United States Senate. The worst crime is their refusal to even allow her to come up for a vote. It's shameful. And it should change today. Being nice has gotten us a 160-day delay.
He seems to be done with being nice about this. Is Senator Reid's way the best way to go forward, Congressman?
Well, I think absolutely, given that this has been a historic delay. Loretta Lynch was a historic nomination. She's exquisitely qualified. She's been confirmed by the Senate on 2 prior occasions unanimously. She's a Harvard-educated attorney, an incredibly accomplished law enforcement professional. She's the of a school librarian and a Baptist preacher. She's the classic embodiment of the American dream and should be installed to head the Justice Department to close out the president's time in office. And so, given that there's absolutely no reason whatsoever that a reasonable person could disagree with the proposition that she is qualified to be our Attorney General, and given that Mitch McConnell has offered reasons that are irrational, the Senate should have the ability to walk and chew gum at the same time. This is allegedly the world's most deliberative body, and yet because of the sex trafficking debate, they claim to be unable to bring Loretta Lynch to the floor. These excuses are illegitimate in the view of many people here in the Capitol and across the country, and that's why it's time for Harry Reid to act, and I'm glad that he indicated he's willing to do so.
Jonathan, they're saying the sex trafficking bill, but this really seems to many people, including me, that this is about fighting any way they can President Obama. In fact, your paper, The Washington Post, has a new editorial with the headline, "The Senate's Shabby Treatment of Loretta Lynch." It says, quote, "There's no principled reason to link Ms. Lynch's nomination to the passage of the trafficking bill. The Republican majority has no one to blame but itself." They're right. What's the point of linking this confirmation to an unrelated bill, Jonathan?
Right. Well, it's what we've been seeing for the last 6 years, a war against the president. This is a proxy war against President Obama and trying to take him down or limit his ability once again. What's really funny here is the Republicans on Capitol Hill really hated the current occupant and really hate the current occupant of the Attorney General's office, Eric Holder. And when he announced his resignation, you know, Holder took away a lot of their anger. Now you've got Loretta Lynch, who all they have to do is confirm her, and their number one enemy would be gone, or I should say number two would be gone. And instead, Eric Holder, the person who they would love to leave the Attorney General's office, is still there. And yet, as Congressman Jeffries pointed out, Loretta Lynch is eminently qualified. And the key thing Congressman Jeffries pointed out was that she has been twice confirmed by the Senate.
That's right.
Unanimously. There is no reason for her to not be confirmed except to embarrass the president.
But Frank, you work Capitol Hill. What are you hearing? I mean, what are you hearing from senators and their staffs? What is really going on behind the scenes here?
Well, I think there's no doubt that once Loretta Lynch's nomination does make it to the Senate floor, that she will pass. I mean, you know, our whip count has 51. The 51 votes that she needs, with the 5 Republicans who have publicly announced that they would support her nomination. I think that Republicans also see this as a leverage point. I mean, not only do they see this as opposing the Obama administration, but for this anti-trafficking legislation specifically, they see this as a way to use leverage to get what they want with the anti-trafficking bill. They included that language that would prohibit any funds used in the bill from being used on abortions. They've tried to shift that around a little bit in the past weeks, but they see this as, okay, you know, Democrats, you want this, well, we want this, and that's really kind of where we're at. This is more of almost like a leverage point than it is just a real jab at the Obama administration.
But Congressman, we're talking about the Attorney General of the United States, with terrorism and some terrorists waiting for prosecution and or trial, when you have all kinds of questions about voting and policing. We're talking about the Attorney General here. This seems to be crazed to a lot of people, that you're playing with something as sensitive and as important as the Attorney General of the United States. What's the real issue here?
Well, that's exactly correct. And this is not the first time that we've seen Republicans willing to play with the safety and security of the American people. They did it in the context of threatening to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, and now they're holding up an eminently qualified individual to head or to be the chief law enforcement officer for the nation. We need all hands on deck at a time when there are terrorists all across the world who want to strike us in the United States. They only need to be right once. We need to be correct 100% of the time. That's why we need a fully functional Department of Justice with Loretta Lynch at the helm. Now, when you ask the question, what's the reason? I mean, it's a very good question. Why have they chosen to obstruct the president's agenda as it relates to Loretta Lynch, for instance, but not Ash Carter? They claimed initially that the claim was that, well, we have a problem with Loretta Lynch supporting the president's executive action on immigration. Well, presumably, they also had a problem with Ash Carter's support for the president's negotiations with Iran to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon.
But they confirmed him.
They confirmed him almost immediately. And so the Republicans are going to have to come up with a good reason, which they haven't produced so far and will not be able to. Why is Loretta Lynch being treated differently even from other nominees of the President of the United States?
You know, Frank, do you see this being resolved quickly, or do we have to keep on dealing with this?
Well, it sounds like Senator McConnell alluded today, and negotiators on both sides of the aisle seem to think that the differences on the anti-trafficking bill can be resolved in the coming days. So Senator McConnell said he hoped to have this bill finished early next week. If that's the case, then they'll have a vote on Loretta Lynch's nomination early next week.
But we're hearing other senators saying, well, maybe we want to do the Iran nuclear deal first. It's a lot of procrastination and delay, and the American people are the ones suffering. Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, Jonathan Capehart, and Frank Thorpe, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.